I mean, you really have to ask the question when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking about their season win. Does it really matter? Do you really need to do any type of in-depth analysis, or does it just feel like Groundhog Day? It's the same story over and over and over again. And even if you want to say, well, some of the chapters in the story change a little bit, ultimately it's the same fundamental fucking result. This team has a lot of talent and can't figure out a way to get out of their own damn way, get over the freaking hump, and win a damn Super Bowl like the hell they should be positioned to. Flat out. Last year, this year, makes no difference. It's the same bullshit. And we should have known that this was going to be a lost season for the Steelers as soon as the whole Le'Veon Bell saga really started to play out. Oh, is he going to report? Is he not going to report? Is he going to hold out? Is he not going to hold out? Is he going to show up for week one? And then he doesn't show up for week one. And then players are pissed and talking about him and his contract, which seems like a fundamental no-no, but they're pissed. They feel like they were misled and lied to. And then Le'Veon Bell takes his stupidity to a whole different level and sits out the entire fucking season. Like, what a fucking clusterfuck dumpster fire of a squad this is. How do you have a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Big Ben, who this year threw for over 5,000 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, have arguably the best wide receiver in the game in Antonio Brown, an up-and-coming future star, if he's not already a star, in Juju Smith-Schuster. You get a guy, one of the great stories in the league, in James Conner, a few years ago, cancer patient. Now he's playing at a high level in the NFL and frankly producing at a higher level than Le'Veon Bell did in 2017. You got a defense that statistically really isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good. And all this shit doesn't matter. Because during the course of the season, you have numerous fuck-ups by that idiot of a head coach, Mike Tomlin, glorified cheerleader Terry Bradshaw's right. Not an X's and O's guy, not a disciplinarian, which is exactly what the fuck this roster needs. Combine that with a quarterback who fundamentally lacks in leadership abilities. You're going to sit there and go out in public and start ranting on your freaking teammates. You're going to start knocking them and criticizing them. How about stop throwing dipshit interceptions at key times, Ben? And then you got Antonio Brown, can't control his emotions. I don't want to hear shit about this excuse or that excuse. Bottom line is, while he's not out like his quarterback, allegedly touching and feeling and raping women, battling consent as only Big Ben can, Antonio Brown's still acting again like a moron. This is not a one-off thing. This is a continual pattern. You're an elite wide receiver, paid like an elite wide receiver, get all these commercials. Stop being a fucking knucklehead. But instead, he's getting into fights with Big Ben and crap. And then he's not available in Week 17 when the Steelers still, even after all the cluster fuckery of this season, had a chance to still get in the playoffs with a win and some help. Like, what the hell are you going to do? Just, it doesn't matter. Like, loyalty is one thing. Loyalty eventually becomes stupidity. And what the Steelers are doing now, by not fundamentally shaking up the formula, by allowing Mike Tomlin to continue to be the head coach, even though he is clearly as much of a problem as anything, both directly what he does and indirectly what happens as a byproduct of him, with the lack of cohesion and the lack of discipline on this roster, they stick with him. Just because you stuck with Chuck Noll all those years, that's great. Just because you stuck with Bill Cowher all those years, that's great too. But if you remember, you stuck with Chuck Noll a few damn years too long, and he kind of ran you into the damn ground. At least Bill Cowher got out while the getting was good. You've had Mike Tomlin for over a decade. You've had some good years. You've made it to 2 Super Bowls. You've won 1, but that was almost a damn decade ago. And you only get a certain period of time, window of opportunity, no matter who you are. Like, even if you want to talk about, well, Patriots, if we forget, there was about a 10-year gap between Super Bowl victories. They had a couple of Super Bowl losses and several years where they didn't make it to the Super Bowl mixed in between. Those windows of opportunity are small, fleeting. And in this case, the Steelers are just fucking it up. Like, just time after time after time, it's the same old bullshit. Like, you look at the game late in the season. against the Saints. Shooting themselves in the foot, fake punts, just typical Steelers Mike Tomlin bullshit. But what's even more typical Steelers Mike Tomlin bullshit, because it happens every single year, is this team finding a way to go on the road and play lesser opponents, play down to the level of competition, and lose games they should win. And every year it cost them. It cost them playoff seeding, and this time it cost them the damn playoffs. You can go all the way back to week 1. Tyrod Taylor and Hugh Jackson fucking in charge for Cleveland, running a glorified college offense, and you come out of that game with a tie? A tie? Are you kidding me? And then late in the season, after you got momentum, and you won like 6 games in a row, you kick the shit out of the Panthers, you're running wild, and everybody's like, oh, look at the Steelers. Then the Mike Tomlin strike, and you go to Denver, you lose to Denver, and then you go to Oakland and lose to that fucking Raiders. Every goddamn year, the Steelers team does this, and Steelers fans will get pissed. And in this case, not even at me for shitting on them, because they know every single word I'm saying is absolutely true. That is a lack of discipline. That is a lack of seriousness, business-like approach. And that is a direct reflection of leadership and the lack of leadership in this team, specifically coming from the head coach and the quarterback. And in this case, you're not going to get rid of the quarterback because he's at least a future Hall of Famer. Mike Tomlin most certainly the fuck is not. As a result, one of the two's got to go. Goodbye, sayonara, see ya, Mike Tomlin, and yet he still stays. If that embarrassing loss at home in the divisional round last year to the Jaguars wasn't enough, what the hell is the difference this time? Why the hell would you still think it's okay and that everything is fine? And then you got Antonio Brown requesting a trade. At this point in time, as crazy as it seems to trade away an elite player, potential future Hall of Famer, you got to do it because you got to shake shit up. It's not about talent anymore. And if you're not going to change the coach, you're not going to change the quarterback, then something else has got to change in the mix. Shit, they didn't miss Le'Veon Bell other than the distraction and locker room issues that were caused with Le'Veon Bell's holdout on the field. They didn't fucking miss him. Juju Smith-Schuster is a stud in his own right. And based off of the position and the way the Steelers drafted, for all we know, James Washington could be the next Juju Smith-Schuster. And if not, they'd probably go out and find that guy. Because unlike defensive backs where they reach for Artie Burns, they massively reach for Terrell Edmonds, at least they know what the hell they're doing with wide receivers. If you can find somebody dumb enough to take the headache that is the greatness of Antonio Brown, then you've got to do it and keep it moving. Because staying status quo ain't working. All you're doing is wasting your window of opportunity to where 15, 20 years from now, we're going to be looking back on these Steelers teams and saying these are one of the better teams in theory that never won a Super Bowl that should have because of the talent. You look and you're like, oh my God, that's a Hall of Famer. That's a Hall of Famer. He might be a Hall of Famer. How the hell did they win a world championship? I did the video after last season. Mike Tomlin must go. And this year they didn't even make the playoffs. What does this team need? A head coach that will actually instill some discipline and get this team to actually win games they fucking should on the road against shitty opponents. A quarterback that actually displays some level of leadership, takes some responsibility and accountability other than trying to sit there and get everybody to talk about how tough he is when he fakes another mamby-pamby fucking injury. A star wide receiver that doesn't get so caught up in his diva bullshit that he's sitting there and consistently doing all this stupid stuff because, frankly, he's a dumbass. Until you get those 3 things, nothing is going to change with this shit. Idiots. And instead, they stay the course, and if nothing changes, we'll be talking about it again next year. How they could have done more, should have done more, and ultimately didn't because they got Tomlin.